Earth's first Star Destroyer has awakened, and it's unleashing hell. Lieutenant Amy Carson sat at her control station, staring at the same boring star patterns she had watched for 3 months. The coffee in her cup was cold, but she didn't care anymore. Working at the Neptune monitoring station was supposed to be easy duty. Nothing ever happened out here in the deep dark of space. That was what they told her when she took this job. Then every alarm in the station started screaming at once. Her heart jumped into her throat. Specialist Derek Shaw jumped up from his seat nearby, his hands moving fast across his computer screen. His voice was shaking when he shouted across the command room. "Contact!" Multiple ships dropping out of slipspace. "They're coming fast." Amy felt like someone had dumped ice water down her back. Nothing human could travel through slipspace. That technology only existed in research labs on Mars. Scientists had been trying to figure it out for 20 years. She pulled up the sensor readings on her screen and felt sick. 12 massive ships were heading toward Earth at impossible speeds. Each one was 3 times bigger than the largest human battleship. "Get Admiral Hayes on the line right now," Amy said. Her voice sounded calmer than she felt inside. "Wake up everyone on the station. This is real." The reply came faster than she expected. Admiral Gregory Hayes appeared on her screen. His gray hair was messy and he was still putting on his jacket. Behind him, she could see people running around in the Earth Defense Command Center. Everyone looked scared. "We see them, Neptune Station," Hayes said. His voice was serious and hard. "They've been ignoring every message we sent. Lieutenant, I need you to slow them down somehow." Amy looked at her station's weapons. 6 railguns and some missiles that would probably bounce off those huge ships like throwing rocks at a tank. "Sir, we can't even scratch them with what we have here." "You don't need to destroy them. You just need to make them notice you. Our defense fleet needs 40 minutes to get into position." "Give us those 40 minutes." The screen went black. Amy looked at Derek. He had gone pale. Around the command deck, 18 men and women stared at her. They were waiting for orders. Orders that would probably get them all killed. "Battle stations," Amy said quietly. "Charge all weapons. Send a message to those ships. Tell them if they want Earth, they have to go through us first." Far away near the moon, Chief Engineer Kyle Bennett was having his own emergency. In front of him floated humanity's biggest project. The USS Vengeance was a warship that had cost more money than 6 countries made in a year. It took 8 years to build. The ship used alien technology that humans had found in a crashed probe out past Neptune. She wasn't supposed to fly for another 3 months. Half the weapons had never been tested. The special engine had only been tried in computer programs. Some of the crew rooms didn't even have air yet. Kyle's communicator buzzed with an emergency code. Commander Lisa Grant's face appeared. She looked terrified. "Kyle, I don't care if you have to tape her together. Earth Command just sent out the highest level alert. We have hostile aliens coming, and the Vengeance is the only ship that might hurt them. How fast can you get her flying?" Kyle looked at the incomplete warship. He saw the exposed wires and the missing armor plates. He saw the reactor that he had planned to spend another month fixing. "What do you mean by flying?" "Engines, weapons, and air to breathe. Everything else doesn't matter right now. 4 hours, maybe 5. You have 2. The alien fleet will reach Earth by then. Captain Holland is already on board with a small crew." "Make it happen, Chief." The screen went dark. Kyle stood there for a moment. He could feel the weight of 8 billion lives pressing down on him. Then he grabbed his tools and started running toward the ship. He was already yelling orders to his team. On Earth, deep under the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Hayes stood in front of a huge holographic display. It showed the alien fleet getting closer to Earth. Around him, generals and politicians argued in many different languages. President Victoria Lang stood quiet. Her face was serious as she watched the countdown timer. "What can we do?" she asked quietly. Everyone stopped arguing. "Not much," Hayes admitted. "Our defense fleet is moving to fight them. But from what we can see, those alien ships have weapons and shields that are way better than ours. We're outgunned and out of time. What about the Vengeance? She's not finished. But she's our only chance. If Chief Bennett can get her flying, and if Captain Holland can figure out how to use those new weapons, we might survive this." The president looked at the timer. 1 hour and 43 minutes until the aliens reached Earth. "Then let's hope Kyle Bennett is as good as everyone says, because if that ship doesn't fly, we're all dead." Back near Neptune, Lieutenant Amy Carson prepared to make humanity's first stand. Her station's railguns were ready. Her crew was at their positions. 12 alien warships were now close enough to shoot at. She thought about her family in Boston. She thought about her younger brother who wanted to be an astronaut. She thought about all the things she would never get to do. Then she pressed the firing button. The first shots from Neptune Station hit the lead alien ship with the force of a small meteor. The bullets were moving at nearly the speed of light. They should have punched through any known armor. Instead, they exploded against some kind of invisible wall 50 meters from the ship. The explosions lit up the darkness like fireworks. "Shields," Derek whispered. He was staring at the screen in disbelief. "They have energy shields." Amy didn't waste time being amazed. "All weapons, keep firing. Aim at the middle of their formation. Make them work for it." She switched to the station-wide speaker. "This is the lieutenant. We're not going to win this fight, but we're going to make sure Earth knows these things can be hurt. Don't give up." The station shook as all 6 railguns started firing at once. The non-stop shooting would have destroyed any human ship. The alien formation didn't even slow down. Instead, 3 of the huge ships turned toward the station. Bright purple lights started glowing on their weapons. "They noticed us," Derek said. His voice was barely a whisper. Amy had just enough time to think about her brother before the first alien weapon cut through the station's outer wall like a hot knife through butter. Air exploded outward, carrying pieces of the station and bodies into space. Emergency doors slammed shut, but the station was already dying. "Abandoned station," Amy shouted. Another beam cut through the command deck. "Everyone to the escape pods. Move now," she stated her control panel. Her fingers moved across the controls. She was programming the station's reactor to explode and setting the remaining missiles to launch when the aliens got close. If these alien monsters wanted to finish her station, they would get one last surprise. Derek grabbed her arm. "Lieutenant, we need to go now. Get to the pod. I'll be right behind you." It was a lie. They both knew it. Someone had to stay and enter the final codes. The system needed her handprint and password. Derek looked at her for just a moment. Then he nodded and ran toward the escape corridor. Amy watched the alien ships get closer on her dying screen. She watched the escape pods launch from her station. She watched Earth spinning in the distance. It looked so blue and beautiful and worth everything she was about to do. She put her hand on the scanner and entered the final code. "Neptune Station to all ships," she sent out on every channel. "Hit their shields with everything you have. They can be damaged. Make them pay for every inch of space." The reactor went critical. The alien ships were less than 200 meters away when Neptune Station became a small sun. The explosion caught all 3 alien ships. One ship simply disappeared, turned into gas by the blast. The other 2 tumbled away. Their shields were flickering and failing. Their armor was burned and cracked. The remaining 9 alien ships stopped moving forward. For the first time since entering the solar system, they had lost ships. The pause lasted exactly 14 seconds. Then they started moving toward Earth again. This time they looked angry. The war for Earth had begun. Earth's first Star Destroyer has awakened, and it's unleashing hell. At Luna Shipyard, Kyle Bennett was working faster than he had ever worked in his life. The Vengeance's huge reactor hummed as it came to life. Power flowed through systems that had never been tested. Small fires started in 3 different sections. Kyle's team moved like dancers, putting out the fires while bringing weapons online at the same time. Captain Ryan Holland stood on the bridge that wasn't quite finished yet. He watched status displays light up one by one. He was a veteran of the Titan conflict, one of the few real battles humanity had fought before the long peace. His face looked old and tired. Right now, he looked like he had aged 10 years in the last 2 hours. "Engineering, give me a status report." Holland called down to Kyle. Kyle's voice came back with static. "Main engines at 70%. Weapons are online, but we've never tested them. Life support is stable only in the important sections. Captain, I have to be honest. Half this ship is held together with emergency welds and hope. Will she fight?" A pause. "She'll fight once, maybe twice if we're lucky. After that, I can't promise anything. Once is all we need. Helm, get ready to release the docking clamps when I say." Holland looked at the tactical screen and his jaw got tight. The Earth Defense Fleet had 23 ships. They were humanity's best military technology. Against those alien shields and weapons, they would last maybe 10 minutes. The Vengeance had to do better than that. "All hands. This is the captain. We're launching in 30 seconds with an incomplete ship and a crew that hasn't trained together. We're going up against an enemy that's more advanced than us in every way. We're probably going to die." He paused. He looked around at the faces on his bridge. They were young men and women who had volunteered for what everyone knew was a suicide mission. But Earth is behind us. That's 8 billion people counting on us to do the impossible. So let's show these aliens what humans do when we're backed into a corner. Helm release clamps. All engines full burn. Take us to war! The huge docking clamps released with explosive bolts. The Vengeance pulled free of her construction frame. Her engines burned white hot. The incomplete warship accelerated toward a battle that would decide if humanity lived or died. On Earth and cities around the world, people looked up at the sky. They watched the lights of distant battles. They didn't know about Amy Carson's sacrifice. They didn't know that the Vengeance was held together with luck. They only knew that something terrible was coming. All they could do was wait and hope. In space between Earth and the Moon, the 9 remaining alien warships met the Earth Defense Fleet. The battle was brutal and short. Human ships exploded under focused beam fire. Missiles blew up uselessly against alien shields. In 4 minutes, 7 human vessels were destroyed. Their crews were lost to space forever. Then the Vengeance arrived and everything changed. The Vengeance came out from behind the Moon's shadow, like an angry angel. Her experimental weapons glowed with barely contained energy. Captain Holland stood at the center of his incomplete bridge. Exposed wires and temporary control stations surrounded him. He looked every inch the warrior he had trained his whole life to be. "Tactical, what are we looking at?" he snapped. Lieutenant Commander Brad Murphy worked his control panel fast. 9 alien vessels, Captain. They already destroyed 7 of our ships. The rest of the defense fleet is falling back. They're trying to form a defensive line around Earth. They won't hold for more than a few minutes. Then we don't have a few minutes. Power up the main cannon. I want to know if that alien technology we copied actually works. Down in engineering, Kyle heard the order and felt his stomach drop. The main cannon was humanity's first plasma weapon. They built it using technology from a crashed alien probe. They had run computer tests, sure. But firing it for the first time in actual combat was like playing a deadly game with the entire ship. "Captain, the main cannon uses power from the main reactor," Kyle warned. "If the containment field changes even a tiny bit, we'll blow ourselves apart." "Understood. Charge it anyway." Kyle looked at his engineering team. He saw his own fear in their faces. He started entering commands. "You heard the man. Send all extra power to the main weapon. And somebody pray, because we're about to find out if 8 years of work was worth anything." The front of the Vengeance began to glow. A building wave of blue-white energy made the space around it seem to bend. On the bridge, Brad Murphy's targeting computer locked onto the nearest alien warship. It was one of the huge ships that had destroyed 2 human carriers just minutes ago. "Target locked, Captain. Ready to fire when you say." Holland watched the tactical display. He watched the alien ship's weapons start to glow as it prepared to shoot back. This was it. Everything came down to this moment. If the main cannon failed, if the alien shields held, the Vengeance would be destroyed. Earth's last real hope would die with her. "Fire," Holland said quietly. The Vengeance's main cannon fired with a sound that went through every deck. It was a deep vibration that rattled teeth and made reality itself seem to shake. A beam of superheated plasma, held together by a magnetic field and moving at a huge fraction of light speed, crossed the distance between ships in less than a heartbeat. It hit the alien vessel's shields and kept going. The alien ship's energy barrier flashed bright white, then broke like glass. The plasma beam punched through the ship's hull. It went through internal rooms and support beams. It went through whatever spaces the alien crew lived in. It came out the far side in an explosion of vaporized metal and air. The massive alien warship simply broke apart. It split along the line where the beam had cut it. The 2 huge pieces tumbled away into space. On the Vengeance's bridge, there was a moment of shocked silence. Then Brad Murphy let out a yell that would have gotten him in trouble in any other situation. "Direct hit. Their shields failed. Captain, that weapon just went through their defenses like they weren't even there." Holland allowed himself a thin smile. "Then let's not keep them waiting. All weapons fire when ready. Helm, turn us around for another main cannon shot, and someone give me a firing solution on their flagship." The Vengeance dove into the battle like a shark. Her secondary weapons, railguns, and missile batteries based on proven human technology but much bigger, opened fire in a continuous stream. While these weapons couldn't break through the alien shields, they forced the enemy ships to use power for their defenses. That made them slower and easier to hit. And when the main cannon fired again, another alien ship died. The 8 remaining alien ships began to react. They finally recognized the Vengeance as a real threat. 3 of them broke away from attacking the Earth Defense Fleet. They turned toward the human Star Destroyer. Their beam weapons started charging. "Evasive maneuvers," Holland shouted. "Don't let them get a clean shot." The Vengeance's pilot was a young woman named Claire Davis. She was fresh from the pilot academy. She pushed the massive ship through moves it was never designed for. The incomplete warship groaned and shook. Her structure protested, but she responded. 3 purple beams cut through the space where the Vengeance had been just seconds before. "Return fire, all weapons. Target the lead ship." "Concentrated fire!" The Vengeance's side guns lit up the darkness. Dozens of railgun rounds and missiles hit a single alien ship. The shields held, but they flickered under the constant attack. Then the main cannon fired again. The alien ship's shields collapsed under the combined shooting. Without its protective barrier, the alien vessel was exposed to the follow-up missiles. It died in a series of bright explosions. 7 alien ships left, but the Vengeance was taking damage now. Enemy beam weapons scored hits against her incomplete hull. They cut through sections that hadn't been properly armored yet. Crew rooms were exposed to space. Systems were failing. People were dying. In engineering, Kyle fought a dozen small fires while trying to keep the reactor stable. The main cannon was eating power faster than they had calculated. The containment field was starting to change. "Captain, we can't keep firing that thing. The reactor's going to go critical. How many more shots do we have?" Kyle ran the numbers. He watched the reactor temperature climb. He made a calculation that would haunt him forever. 3, maybe 4. After that, we're dead in space or we're just dead. Then make them count. Holland out. The captain turned to his tactical officer. "Brad, I need targeting solutions on the 3 nearest ships. We're going to make every shot count." What followed was 8 minutes of the most intense combat in human history. The Vengeance, burning and wounded but not giving up, tore through the alien formation like a force of nature. The main cannon fired again and again. Each shot killed an enemy ship. Each shot brought the Vengeance closer to reactor failure. The remaining Earth Defense Fleet rallied around the Star Destroyer. Their normal weapons hammered at alien shields. They provided covering fire. They drew enemy attention. Ships died on both sides. Space filled with pieces of destroyed vessels and frozen air from ruptured hulls. When the last alien ship exploded under the Vengeance's final shot, only 3 human vessels were still intact. The Star Destroyer herself was a burning wreck. Air was venting from a dozen hull breaks. Her reactor temperature was in the danger zone. Half her crew was dead or dying, but Earth still stood. Earth's first Star Destroyer has awakened, and it's unleashing hell. 3 days after the battle, the Vengeance hung in a slowly falling orbit above Earth. She was still too damaged to move on her own. Repair crews swarmed over her hull in small work pods. They tried to fix the worst of the damage. Kyle Bennett and his team worked day and night to bring critical systems back online. Captain Holland hadn't slept in 40 hours. He stood in what was left of his ready room. He stared at the holographic image that had everyone in Earth Command terrified. Admiral Hayes appeared on the secure channel. His face looked grim. "You're absolutely sure about this?" "Yes, sir." Holland pointed at the enhanced image they had taken from the last alien ship's computer before it exploded. "Lieutenant Commander, Brad Murphy managed to pull this from their communication system during the battle. Our language experts have been working nonstop to understand it." The image showed a star map. Earth's solar system was marked in pulsing red. But that wasn't what made Holland's blood run cold. It was the dozens of other systems marked in the same color, and the massive fleet symbols moving toward human space from multiple directions. "They're called the Krell Dominion," Holland continued. "The ships we fought were a scouting force. They were testing our defenses. The real invasion fleet will arrive in about 6 weeks. Based on what we've learned, we're looking at over 200 warships." Hayes looked like he aged 10 years in a second. 200? We barely survived 12 with only one weapon that could hurt them. "Captain, even if we build a dozen more ships like the Vengeance, we can't win this." "No, sir, we can't. Not in a normal fight." Holland pulled up another file. This one had security labels that needed presidential approval to see. "But we might not have to fight normally." In the Vengeance's engineering bay, Kyle Bennett was having a conversation that would change everything. Chief Scientist Dr. Laura Kim had arrived from Earth on a high-speed shuttle. She brought something interesting from studying the alien wreckage. "We've been looking at this all wrong," Laura said. She showed a holographic picture of an alien power core. "The Krell shields aren't some exotic technology we can't understand. They're actually pretty simple once you know what you're looking for. They create a vibration field tuned to specific energy types." Kyle studied the picture. His engineering mind was already thinking ahead. "Which means if we can match that vibration, we can shield our own ships. More than that, we can change our weapons to go right through their shields. The Krell have been using the same technology for so long, they've gotten lazy. They never expected anyone to figure out the weakness." "How long to make this work?" Laura looked him straight in the eye. "If we work non-stop, if we get every shipyard in the solar system involved, if we throw every resource humanity has at this problem, 4 weeks, maybe 5. The invasion fleet arrives in 6 weeks. Then we better not waste any time." Laura pulled up a second picture. This one showed a modified version of the Vengeance's main cannon. "Kyle, what if I told you we could make every human ship in the fleet hit as hard as the Vengeance?" "What? If we could turn the entire Earth defense fleet into star destroyers?" Kyle looked at the pictures. He looked at the changes needed. He looked at the huge scale of what they wanted to do. It was impossible. Completely impossible. They would need to retrofit every ship, retrain every crew, make thousands of new parts in a time frame that was already too short. He thought about Lieutenant Amy Carson, who had bought them time with her life. He thought about the crew members who had died aboard the Vengeance. He thought about his family on Earth. About 8 billion people depending on people like him to do the impossible. "Let's get to work," Kyle said. What followed was the biggest construction effort in human history. Every shipyard from Mercury to Neptune worked 24 hours a day. Civilian ships were turned into warships. Half-built colony ships were changed into weapons platforms. The lunar factories that had taken years to build the Vengeance now made main cannons and shield generators on an assembly line that never stopped. Captain Holland split his time between watching the Vengeance's repairs and training the quickly assembled fleet in new tactics. The old playbook was useless. Everything had to be thought up again for a new kind of war. Commander Sophie Turner used to captain the destroyer Defiant. She was one of the few ship captains to survive the first battle. She joined Holland in the Vengeance's rebuilt briefing room. Around them, holographic pictures of 37 ships floated in formation. These ships were the entirety of Earth's combat-ready fleet. "We're outnumbered 6-1, Sophie said. She studied the tactical projections. "Even with the new weapons and shields, we're going to lose a lot of ships. I know." Holland highlighted a region of space near Jupiter's orbit. "That's why we're not going to fight them straight on. We're going to make them come to us. And we're going to use every dirty trick we know." He pulled up a battle plan that made Sophie's eyes go wide. "Captain, this is insane." "Probably. But it might just work." Holland looked at the fleet list. He looked at the names of ships and crews who would be asked to risk everything one more time. "The Krell think they're facing a primitive species that got lucky once. They expect us to hide behind Earth's defenses and wait for them to destroy us piece by piece. Instead, we're going to hit them so hard they'll think twice about ever coming back." On Earth, people went about their lives with a strange mix of fear and determination. Cities kept working. Children went to school. But everyone knew what was coming. Everyone had seen the videos of the first battle. President Victoria Lang spoke to the world in a broadcast that would be remembered forever. She stood in the rebuilt command center. Military advisors and civilian leaders surrounded her. She spoke the truth. 6 weeks from now, an alien armada will arrive in our solar system. They want to conquer or destroy humanity. We will not let that happen. Our fleet is preparing. Our people are ready, and if they want Earth, they're going to have to take it from us one bloody inch at a time. We didn't come this far as a species by giving up when things got tough. We're not starting now." In orbit above Earth, the Vengeance's main reactor came back online. Her new shield generators hummed to life. Her rebuilt main cannon charged for the first time since the battle. Kyle Bennett stood in his engineering bay with his team around him. He allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. They had done it. They had taken a half-destroyed wreck and turned it back into the most powerful warship humanity had ever built, and she wouldn't be fighting alone. "All systems green, Captain," Kyle reported. "The Vengeance is ready for round 2. Holland stood on his bridge. He looked out at the fleet assembling around his flagship. 37 ships. Each now had weapons and shields that could hurt the Krell. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was what they had. And they would make it count. "Fleet, this is Captain Holland. All ships report when ready to leave. We have a date with an alien armada and I'd hate to be late." One by one, the ships of Earth's defense fleet signaled they were ready. They formed up in a formation that Holland had designed just for this battle, a formation that would either save humanity or die trying. The fleet's engines burned bright. They began their journey to the outer system, to the place where they would make their stand. In 5 weeks and 4 days, the Krell invasion fleet would arrive. They would expect to find a broken, scared species begging for mercy. Instead, they would find humanity waiting, armed, angry, and absolutely ready to unleash hell. The plan was simple in concept, but brutal in execution. Holland would take the fleet to a carefully chosen spot beyond Jupiter's orbit. There, in the deep dark between planets, they would prepare a killing ground. They would seed the area with mines. They would position the fleet for maximum advantage. They would use every lesson learned from the first battle, and when the Krell arrived expecting an easy victory, humanity would teach them a lesson they would never forget. Sophie stood next to Holland on the bridge as the fleet moved into position. "Do you think we can really win this?" Holland was quiet for a long moment. He watched the ships around them, watched Earth growing smaller in the distance. "I think we have to. There's no plan B, no backup, no cavalry coming to save us. It's just us against them. And if we lose, humanity dies, so yes, I think we can win. Because the alternative is unacceptable." The Vengeance led the fleet toward the outer system. Behind them, on Earth, people waited and hoped. Ahead of them, in the cold dark of space, destiny waited. In less than 6 weeks, the Krell would arrive expecting to find prey. They would find predators instead. Kyle worked in the engineering bay, making final adjustments to the reactor systems. The new power management was holding steady. It was designed to handle the constant firing the main cannon would need. Around him, his team prepared for the desperate hours ahead. Paul Martinez, Kyle's second-in-command, spoke quietly. "We're going to make it through this, right?" Kyle thought about lying, about giving false hope. Then he decided these people deserved the truth. "I don't know, but I know we've done everything possible to give this ship a fighting chance. The rest is up to the captain and whatever gods might be listening." The fleet continued its journey outward. Every crew member knew what Earth's first Star Destroyer has awakened, and it's unleashing hell. The killing ground was a carefully chosen region of Space 3 astronomical units beyond Jupiter's orbit. Here, in the deep dark between planets, the Krell invasion fleet would come out of slipspace, and here humanity would be waiting. Captain Holland stood on the Vengeance's bridge. The ship was now fully repaired and upgraded with the latest changes. Around him, his crew worked with the quiet efficiency of soldiers who had already survived one impossible battle. They knew what was coming. They were ready. "Fleet status?" Holland asked. Commander Sophie Turner, now serving as his second-in-command, checked the tactical display. "All 37 ships in position, Captain. We've filled the area with sensor devices and minefields. Every ship reports weapons charged and shields at maximum. The second wave is waiting near Mars as planned." Holland nodded. The battle plan was risky. It was built on guesses about how the Krell would approach the fight. If they were wrong, if the enemy changed their tactics, humanity would be wiped out in the opening minutes. But they had studied every piece of data from the first battle. They had analyzed every Krell tactical decision. They built a strategy designed to use every weakness they had found. Time until they arrive? 7 minutes, Captain. Holland opened a channel to all ships. "All ships, this is Holland. In a few minutes, we're going to face an enemy that believes we're primitives, that our victory was luck, that we're not worth their concern. Let's show them exactly how wrong they are. Stay focused. Trust your training. Remember what we're fighting for. All of humanity is counting on us. Don't let them down. Vengeance out. In the engine room, Kyle Bennett made a final check of the reactor systems. The new power management systems were holding steady. They were designed to handle the constant firing the main cannon would need. Around him, his engineering team stood ready. Each member knew their role in the desperate minutes ahead. Kyle, Paul Martinez said quietly, "We're going to make it through this, right?" Kyle thought about lying, about offering false comfort. Then he decided these people deserve the truth. "I don't know, but I know we've done everything possible to give this ship a fighting chance. The rest is up to the captain and whatever gods might be listening." The sensor displays lit up with contact warnings. Reality itself seemed to tear open as the Krell invasion fleet began coming out of slipspace. 200 warships, each one a massive weapon of destruction, appeared in a formation that showed military precision and absolute confidence. Holland watched them arrive. He watched the tactical computer calculate firing solutions. He felt a cold certainty settle over him. This was it. Everything humanity had built, everything they had become, would be decided in the next hour. "They're scanning," Sophie reported. "They found our fleet. Captain, they're not slowing down. They're speeding up toward us in full battle formation." "Arrogant," Holland muttered. Then louder. "All ships execute attack pattern Delta. Let's show them why that's a mistake." The human fleet suddenly scattered. Ships broke formation and burned hard in different directions. To the Krell, it must have looked like panic, like an inferior force breaking and running. The alien fleet adjusted course. They probably intended to chase down the running ships and destroy them one by one. They flew directly into the minefield. Hundreds of mines, each one equipped with the new vibration technology that could go through Krell shields, exploded in a coordinated pattern. The alien formation's front elements simply stopped existing. They were turned into gas by nuclear fire. 16 ships destroyed in the opening seconds. The rest suddenly found themselves scattered and disorganized. "Now," Holland shouted. "All ships, weapons free." The human fleet turned around and attacked from multiple directions at once. Every ship had been given a modified version of the Vengeance's main cannon. They were smaller but still deadly. 37 plasma beams cut through the void. Each one found an alien target. Each one punched through Krell's shields as if they weren't there. The alien fleet was shocked. They had never faced an enemy that could hurt them like this, that could match their technology and beat their tactics. They tried to reform. They tried to use their superior numbers. But the human ships refused to stay still. Claire Davis piloted the Vengeance with insane precision. She weaved through the alien formation while the ship's main cannon fired again and again. Each shot killed an enemy ship, but the Krell were not helpless. They adapted quickly. They changed their shield frequencies. They concentrated their fire. They accepted losses to take down human ships. The destroyer Halifax exploded under focused beam fire. The carrier Independence broke apart when 3 Krell ships targeted her at the same time. The frigate Marathon's reactor went critical. She took 2 alien ships with her in a final act of defiance. The battle became a brutal fight. Ships died on both sides. Space filled with debris and radiation. Holland coordinated the fleet with cold precision. He sacrificed ships when necessary. He used every opening. He made the Krell pay for every inch of space. "Second wave, execute." Holland sent the command. From their position near Mars, another 20 ships burst into action. These were the civilian vessels that had been quickly changed into weapons platforms. They were crewed by volunteers and retired military people. They weren't as heavily armed as the main fleet. But they didn't need to be. They just needed to hit the Krell fleet from behind while the aliens were focused forward. The Krell found themselves caught between 2 forces. They were taking fire from 2 directions. Their formation was collapsing into chaos. Their numerical advantage meant nothing when they couldn't use it properly. Kyle's voice crackled over the communicator. "Captain, reactor temperature is climbing. We've fired the main cannon 43 times. We can't keep this up much longer." Holland checked the tactical situation. They had destroyed over 100 Krell ships, but nearly 30 human vessels were gone. The remaining Krell fleet was finally organizing. Their commander was adapting to the new threat. If this became a long battle of wearing each other down, humanity would lose. Time for the final gambit. "All ships, form up on the Vengeance. We're going straight through their center line." Holland looked at Sophie. He saw his own grim determination reflected there. "Helm, set course for the Krell flagship. Ramming speed." The remaining human fleet, 28 ships now, came together into a wedge formation with the Vengeance at the point. They burned toward the center of the Krell fleet. Weapons firing continuously, shields blazing under enemy fire. Ships died, but the formation held. The Krell flagship was a massive vessel 3 times the size of the Vengeance. It loomed ahead. It was trying to fall back, to use its escorts as shields. But Holland had anticipated that. The human fleet's weapons concentrated on the escorts. They blew them apart. They cleared a path. "Captain," Kyle called up. His voice was strained. "If we fire the main cannon one more time at full power, the reactor will definitely go critical. We'll have maybe 90 seconds before it fails completely." Holland never hesitated. "Do it! Target their flagship." Maximum power. The Vengeance's main cannon had never fired at full capacity before. Every previous shot had been controlled safe. Now Kyle pushed the reactor to its absolute limit. He sent every available bit of power into the weapon system. The ship's lights dimmed. Non-essential systems shut down. Every molecule of energy was focused into the main cannon. When it fired, the beam was visible as a distortion in space itself. A lance of pure destruction that crossed the distance to the Krell flagship in an eye blink. It struck the massive ship's shields and simply erased them. The beam continued through the flagship's hull, through its internal structure, through whatever command center existed within. It came out the far side. The Krell flagship broke apart, not in an explosion but in a slow, unstoppable disintegration. And with it died whatever command and control structure held the alien fleet together. The remaining Krell ships suddenly had no leader. They were facing an enemy that refused to die. They made a choice. They broke. They scattered. Some tried to retreat to slipspace. Others continued fighting with suicidal determination. But the organized invasion was over. It was reduced to chaos and individual desperation. Holland watched them run. He watched the human fleet chase and destroy the scattered remains. He finally allowed himself to believe they had won. "Kyle, reactor status?" A long pause. Then, "We're stable, Captain. Barely. The reactor needs a complete overhaul. We lost about 40% of our power systems. But we're not going to explode. We actually did it." The bridge erupted in cheers. Sophie was crying and laughing. She hugged the helmsman. Around the fleet, ships were celebrating. Their crews were processing the impossible fact of their survival. Holland sat in his command chair. He felt the weight of command finally lift. They had lost 31 ships. Thousands of crew members were dead, but Earth still stood. Humanity had faced its first real test against a hostile universe and emerged victorious. President Lang's face appeared on every display in the fleet. "Captain Holland, on behalf of all humanity, thank you. You and your crews have saved our species. Come home." But Holland was looking at the long-range sensors. At the slipspace, Earth's first Star Destroyer has awakened, and it's unleashing hell. 20 ships formed up around the Vengeance. 20 ships crewed by men and women who had survived hell and were ready to bring that hell to their enemy's doorstep. They prepared for a journey into the unknown. A journey that would take them into Krell space itself. Captain Holland stood on his bridge looking at the fleet that had volunteered to follow him. The Vengeance was scarred and damaged but still flying. Her crew had been through fire and come out stronger. Around them, 19 other ships waited for orders. Each one represented humanity's refusal to simply survive. They wanted to thrive. "Engineering status report," Holland called down. Kyle's voice came back tired but determined. "Reactor is stable at 70% capacity. Main cannon can fire, but we need 5 minutes between shots to cool down. Shields are operating at full strength. Captain, she's not pretty, but she'll fight. That's all I need to hear. Sophie, do we have a track on those Krell ships that escaped?" Commander Sophie Turner worked her console, following the slipspace signatures left by the retreating enemy vessels. "Yes, sir. They're heading to a system approximately 40 light-years from here. Based on the communications we intercepted, it appears to be a major Krell military staging area." Holland smiled grimly. "Perfect. If we're going to send a message, we might as well send it loud and clear. Helm, plot a course. All ships prepare to enter slipspace on my mark." The human fleet engaged their slipspace drives. Technology that had been theoretical just months ago was now carrying humanity's revenge into the heart of enemy territory. The ships vanished from normal space, traveling faster than light toward a confrontation that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. The journey through slipspace took 6 hours. During that time, Holland gathered his command staff for a final briefing. Sophie was there, along with Brad Murphy from Tactical, Claire Davis from the helm, and a holographic link to Kyle in engineering. "Let's be clear about what we're doing," Holland said. "We're taking 20 ships into enemy space. We don't know how many ships they have there. We don't know what defenses they've prepared. What we do know is that if we don't make a statement now, the Krell will just send another fleet in a few years, and another after that. We need to hurt them so badly they think twice about ever threatening Earth again." Brad pulled up a tactical map. "Based on the intelligence we gathered from captured Krell computers, their staging area should have somewhere between 50 and 100 ships. They won't be expecting an attack. They think they're safe in their own territory." "Then let's educate them," Holland said. "We hit them hard and fast. Target their command structures first, then their production facilities. We're not here to conquer. We're here to teach them that attacking humanity has consequences." Kyle's holographic image flickered. "Captain, I have to point out that once we drop out of slip space, we're going to be deep in enemy territory. If things go wrong, there's no retreat. No backup, we're on our own, I know. Every person on every ship knows that. They volunteered anyway." Holland looked at each of them in turn. "We're writing a new chapter in human history right now. We're moving from being a species that defends its home to being a species that won't tolerate threats." Questions? There were none. They all knew what was at stake. They all understood the risk, and they were all willing to pay the price. The fleet dropped out of slip space at the edge of the Krell staging system. What they saw made even Holland's blood run cold for a moment. The system was massive. 3 habitable planets orbited a yellow star. Hundreds of space stations filled orbital space. And scattered throughout the system were over 200 Krell warships. "Contact!" Sophie called out. Multiple signatures. "Captain, there are a lot more ships here than we expected." Holland studied the tactical display. 200 ships against their 20. The odds were insane, suicidal. Exactly the kind of odds that humanity had already beaten once. All ships, weapons free. Execute attack pattern Omega. Target the orbital stations first. Let's announce our arrival. The human fleet split into 4 groups of 5 ships each. They burned hard toward different targets, their new shields glowing as they deflected the first surprise shots from Krell defense platforms. The Vengeance led her group directly toward the largest orbital station, a massive structure that appeared to be a command center. "Main cannon, lock target," Holland ordered. "Fire when ready." The Vengeance's main weapon discharged, sending a lance of plasma across millions of kilometers in seconds. It struck the Krell station and punched clean through. The massive structure began to break apart, atmosphere and debris spilling into space. Secondary explosions rippled through its length as power systems overloaded. Around the system, the other human ships were unleashing similar destruction. Orbital stations exploded. Shipyards were torn apart. Krell ships that tried to respond found themselves facing weapons that could bypass their shields and tactics that kept them off balance. But the Krell had numbers, and they were angry. The system's defense fleet began to organize. Ships formed into squadrons and moved to engage the human attackers. Beam weapons crisscrossed space. Missiles filled the void. The destroyer Courage took a direct hit and exploded. The frigate Determination lost her engines and drifted helplessly. "They're adapting faster this time," Sophie reported. "They're learning from the battle at Earth. Then we need to move faster. All ships concentrate on capital targets. Ignore the small ships unless they're directly threatening us. We're here to break their war-making capacity, not fight every ship in the system." The Vengeance dove toward the second-largest orbital facility. This one appeared to be a massive shipyard where new Krell vessels were being constructed. Holland could see 3 partially built warships in the construction frames. Each one would eventually threaten Earth if allowed to complete. "All weapons target that shipyard. I want it gone." The Vengeance and her group poured fire into the shipyard. Railguns tore through construction frames. Missiles detonated against fuel storage. The main cannon fired twice more, each shot destroying a partially built ship. The shipyard became a debris field, years of work destroyed in minutes. Kyle's voice came through, strained but steady. "Captain, reactor temperature is getting high. We can maintain this pace for maybe 20 more minutes, then we need to back off and let systems cool." "Understood. We'll make those 20 minutes count." The human fleet tore through the Krell system like a force of nature. They destroyed 6 major orbital stations, 2 shipyards, and over 40 enemy ships. But they were paying for it. The Courage was gone. The Determination was drifting dead in space. The cruiser Defiant had lost half her weapons. The frigate Liberty was venting atmosphere from multiple hull breaches, and the Krell defense fleet was finally organized. Over 100 enemy ships were converging on the human force from multiple directions. The numerical advantage was beginning to tell. "Captain," Sophie said quietly, "we need to think about withdrawing. We've done significant damage. If we stay much longer, we're not going home." Holland knew she was right. They had sent their message. They had hurt the Krell badly. Staying longer would just result in the destruction of his fleet for diminishing returns. But there was one more target. One more statement to make. "Sophie, identify their flagship. The command ship for this entire system. Where is it?" She worked her console for a moment. There, at the edge of the inner system. It's hanging back, coordinating the defense fleet from a distance. Plot an intercept course. All ships form up on the Vengeance. We're going for their flagship. The human fleet consolidated, battered ships forming a tight formation around the Vengeance. They burned toward the Krell command ship, fighting through waves of enemy vessels, losing the frigate Valiant and the destroyer Resolute in the process. But they reached the flagship. And Captain Holland had saved one last trick. "Kyle, I need one more full-power shot from the main cannon. I know it's going to push the reactor past its limits. I know we might not survive it. But we need to end this with a statement they'll never forget." There was a pause. Then Kyle's voice came back, calm and certain. "Understood, Captain. Routing all power to the main cannon. This is going to hurt, but she'll do it. One last shot." The Vengeance's reactor temperature climbed into the red zone. Every non-essential system shut down. The ship's lights flickered, and the main cannon began to charge with more power than it had ever held before. The Krell flagship, 3 times the size of the Vengeance and bristling with weapons, turned to face the human ship. Its weapons began to charge. It was preparing to end the battle with overwhelming firepower. The Vengeance fired first. The plasma beam that emerged from her main cannon was visible as a brilliant blue-white line across space. It crossed the distance in a heartbeat. It struck the Krell flagship's shields and didn't just penetrate them. It obliterated them. The beam continued through the massive ship's hull, through every deck, through every compartment, through the very heart of the vessel. The Krell flagship didn't explode. It simply came apart. The beam had cut through so much critical structure that the ship split into multiple pieces, each tumbling away in a different direction. And with that destruction, the